Welcome to another edition of the It's Cavalier podcast. It's your boy Mac, and I think it's time for another question-based podcast episode. I love doing these because I get to see what your guys' feelings and thoughts are on the current state of the Cavaliers. So I'm not going to waste a whole bunch of time with a huge spiel. But before we get into things, just want to say if you are new to the channel, make sure you hit that like button. Help me with the algorithm a little bit. Hit that subscribe because you'll never know what you will see. I talk about Cavs all the live long day. If you want to support the pod in a small but helpful way, make sure to go ahead and sign up to become a paid member over on Patreon. You can do so for as little as $1 a month. Certainly helps with the content creation. That said, all the housekeeping stuff out of the way, let's dig right in, shall we? So we have seen so many different rumors or statements thrown out into the abyss regarding the Cleveland Cavaliers head coaching search. We know that they entered about half the world's known population and then some, and have narrowed it down to two top candidates. That would be Kenny Atkinson and James Borrego, two coaches with previous experience running the show, and each still having a few question marks on their respective resumes. Atkinson really didn't get an opportunity to prove that he was up to the task of coaching star-level talent in Brooklyn a few years ago when they landed both Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant. He was let go early, presumably because they wanted him gone, or at the very least, they didn't prefer him. At least that's the sense that we all got at the time, right? It's been a few years, though, been about 4 years. He clearly has a penchant for developing young talent, and his motion-based offense is very intriguing for a team that features shooters like Max Strus and Sam Merrill. Now, if you haven't actually checked the offense that he runs out, is very, very motion strong. I'll put a link to it in the description. There's a very great breakdown of that. I want you guys to go check that out just in case he does get the job. But there's a lot of intriguing stuff there. And I do certainly like the aspect of player development, because how awesome would it be to see players like Darius, Garland, and Okoro even, or Evan Mobley take another leap, right? Because in years past, it kind of seems like they've kind of stalled out from a developmental aspect, especially Evan Mobley to a degree. We've seen certain areas of his game that kind of lag behind what we want them to be, right? Some of the movement in the post, the perimeter shooting, obviously. But at the end of the day, I would love to see player development be a huge focus, specifically in regards to Mobley. And I think Atkinson, with the experience that he had, getting the most out of guys like D'Angelo Russell, who experienced the lone all-star season of his career there in Brooklyn, players like Spencer Dinwiddie, Karis LeVert, Jarrett Allen, Joe Harris, to name a few. There are a lot of guys over there that he really got the most out of and developed at a younger age entering the league. So I would love to see Atkinson be involved here in the mix. The other candidate, obviously, is James Borrego, who we know didn't really have a great relationship with the likes of LaMelo Ball and others before flaming out in Charlotte, but has since risen back up into the ranks of potential head coach because of his efforts in turning around a New Orleans Pelicans offense. Can he connect with his players? I think that's the biggest question mark, namely the stars, because it just kind of seemed like there was a disconnect at times there. And one of the things that I liked from him is that he appeared to hold his guys accountable, and I just didn't think that really meshed well because that was such a young and developing team. But possibly with older players on this Cavaliers roster, maybe that approach might work. Each have red flags in respective areas. But with that in mind, my question for you is, who should the Cavaliers hire? And just like I did last time, I'll give you some time to jot down your comments in the comment section below before I move to the next question. All right. You got it? Cool. Next up, possible free agents. The Cavaliers are set to have 11 players under contract for the 2024-25 season, a group that includes Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, Evan Mobley, Jarrett Allen, and Max Strus. Now, Tristan Thompson, Damian Jones, and Marcus Morris Sr. are Cleveland's only impending unrestricted free agents. 2025th overall pick, Isaac Okoro is set to be a restricted free agent. And with the key core under contract, and that is assuming that the core isn't actually moved, the Cavaliers are facing a practical cap deficit of $48.2 million. However, they're in far better shape than some NBA franchises and will be $30.5 million below the luxury tax second apron as constructed. Staying below that second apron is important because of trade restrictions imposed via the new collective bargaining agreement, or CBA, beginning this offseason. Teams over the second apron won't be able to aggregate contracts to players for a single player, send out cash in trades, use trade exceptions for previous years, or take back more salary that they send in a trade. Man, this CBA, it honestly throws a lot of things for a loop. It's changing the game in a lot of different regards. Cleveland is also $13.5 million below the luxury tax line, a threshold it may consider crossing in free agency. And while the Cavs may not be heavy players on the trade market front, being well below the second apron at least gives them the flexibility, right? Gives them some options. Now, ideally, the Cavs will manage to keep Okoro. His defense and improved shooting, at least in the regular season, right? Although on small volume, aided Cleveland tremendously during the season. While he missed some time due to injury, he does have some long-term value as a perimeter defender. The issue with Okoro, as I already noted, is the perimeter shooting, right? Not enough volume to suggest that it actually translates when you need it to. And that's exactly the scenario that played out during this past postseason for the Cavaliers, where the Orlando Magic and the Boston Celtics basically just gave him all the space in the world to operate and dared him to shoot. And it's a gamble that paid off. Isaac could not make them pay for it. We know what he can do on the defensive end. We have always questioned what he can do from range, and that limits his value. Now, he is eligible for an $11.8 million qualifying offer. However, at least one general manager does believe that Okoro could see around $14 million annually, according to Michael Scotto of Hoops Hype. Now, here's the thing. If the Cavaliers keep Okoro and do not make a trade, they will only have access to the $5.2 million taxpayer mid-level exception rather than the full $12 million non-taxpayer MLE. That is highly important to note in regards to searching or scouring the market for potential free agents. That's a tough spot to be in for a team that does have pretty clear needs. A bigger wing, and third big man to be exact to begin with. So my question for you is, who is your preferred free agent target? And remember, the Cavaliers may only have the $5.2 million taxpayer MLE and not necessarily the full MLE to work with. That's a big jump from $12.2 million to $5.2 million. That limits you in a lot of different aspects in regards to who you may look for on the free agent market, not just searching for depth, but searching for a true upgrade, right? That's why I feel that this is such an important topic, right? What's going to end up happening with free agency. So I'm going to give you some time to jot down your comment. Let me know what you feel, who your top option would be. You got it? Awesome. Let's move forward. All right. That's why I honestly feel the upcoming draft is such an important one if no trade is made. You got to get one of those two needs in the draft if you aren't trading a piece of the core. Now, I think it's going to go big man. I think the Cavaliers are going to opt to go the big man position in the draft, preferably one who can shoot and not necessarily a traditional big. I think the wings that could make an instant impact in their rookie or perhaps sophomore years will be gone by pick 20. So guys that I've fallen in love with, like Tristan da Silva, are probably going to be gone before pick 20 comes. So I'm hoping for a possible Daron Holmes, Tyler Smith, or Khalil Ware if he's still on the board. With that in mind, my next question is, if the Cavaliers do stay put at pick 20, who is the pick in your opinion? Now, we've seen everyone from Bub Carrington to Johnny Furphy linked to the Cavaliers, so time will tell. Let me know. Who do you believe the Cavaliers will end up drafting? Put it in the comments below. And last, but certainly not least, is the core four. Now, it's being heavily reported that Cleveland has a lot of interest in keeping the core four together for at least next season as they attempt to see if a new head coach can get more out of this group. Personally, I do believe that is something that could be the case. I think if you bring in Atkinson or Borrego, I think that the offenses that these guys run could definitely get more out of this group. Look, we know the concerns already. We don't have to really dive deep into them. It is a lack of front court spacing with the Jarrett Allen and Evan Mobley of it all, and a lack of size in the backcourt tandem of Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell, and at the 3 with an undersized Max Strus, right? These are very real concerns. They're legitimate, so I get it. It's also being reported that Darius Garland, who still has basically 4 years, he just signed this contract, right? Still has 4 years left on his contract, a record-setting deal at that, could request a trade upon a Donovan Mitchell contract extension, right? That certainly plays a role here. So with that in mind, my question for you is keeping the core 4 together another year a mistake, or does that make sense to you? Let me know in the comments below. As always, tell you guys, if you'd like to reach out to me, you know how you can. It's Cavalier_pod on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and more. If you'd like to be added to the It's Cavalier Discord chat, you know what to do. Leave a rating, leave a review, send a screenshot, etc. review to itscavalier53@gmail.com, and I will send you an invite. Go Cavs!